It's good to be here tonight. And for those of you who are in the foyer, please make your way through to where we are. All right, so welcome here tonight. And I'm trying to look around. Who's been here? Who's here for the first time tonight? Welcome. So tonight's message is on exercise and health, and it's something that I'm looking forward to hearing, but I'm not sure I'm looking forward to practicing. So we've got to. That's the point. Is to try and actually put some of these principles we're learning into practice. So I need to be here tonight.
Hi friends, it's good to be with you again. We're just going to recap our last lecture. Monday night's lecture was on metabolic health. How we process food and calories. Have you all got a sheet like this? Not yet.
Okay, if you don't put up your hand.
I think just put up your hand quickly and you get a sheet. So while we're getting the sheets, remember the toilets are down the passage. There's a room next door for the children. There's a children's program. And there will be chair massages after this meeting, if you would like to come for a chair massage. And we also have some free DVDs. I think this is a good time, Kurt. If we can give the folks the DVDs, we've got 2 DVDs. So 2 per family. Is that all right? And I want to ask the Project Recovery team, I don't see many of them in here tonight. They're probably out at the back there. But don't take, this is for our guests. Okay, so for our guests, we want to give 1 of each. Thank you, Kurt and Robbie. So I'm sure these DVDs will be a blessing to you. I'm sure you're going to enjoy them. And there's one condition if you take them. What do you think is the condition? You've got to watch them, isn't it? Watch it, you know. So go home and watch it. The one is a compilation, I believe, of Professor Fight, and then the other one is Forks Over Knives. Is that correct? Yeah, excellent. Excellent material. And if you would like to get more material, we will gladly provide more. And then we're going to also make the DVDs of these lectures available. You know that they're on YouTube? Maybe Chris can just tell us quickly.
Sure. So I had a question earlier this evening about DVDs. So this series we are going to make into a DVD series at some stage. So if you want a DVD series of this series, then you must register and maybe just indicate there that you'd like a series of DVDs so that we can make a copy for you. All right. Sure. And when you register, please put down your email there so we can notify you when they are ready and of updates. So that's that. But if you want to see them or you want to direct some friends to the series and you don't want to wait for the DVDs, they're on YouTube. So tonight we've already got last night's lecture on YouTube, and then tonight's lecture will be there. So if you go to YouTube and you type in Health Seminar and the number of the lecture, so it's either 1 through to 8, and then Kurt Conning, C-O-N-N, K-U-R-T, C-O-N-N-I-N-G, Conning. You will find there the series of lectures on YouTube.
Thank you, Chris. Have you all got your paper? Okay. How we process food and calories is affected by a number of factors. These include our digestive health and efficiency, our hormonal balance, and our body composition. Our basal metabolic rate is indicative of how many calories we burn at rest. When our bodies are in balance and health, our metabolic machinery runs smoothly. Aiming for and maintaining a healthy body composition is important. We need to maintain our muscle mass through appropriate exercise and ensure that our hormonal system is in balance. including our insulin and thyroid hormones. Exercise affects the efficiency and number of our mitochondria, the energy-producing organelles located in our cells. So what is that important little thing in the cell? Mitochondria. Interval training type exercise can increase their efficiency, whilst muscle building exercise increases their numbers. So I think that could have been a question, Dr. Bruce. We don't have any questions tonight, but make that a question. So interval training, what does it do? Increases their efficiency, whilst muscle building exercise increases their numbers. So remember that. A healthy diet affects mitochondrial health. They are very susceptible to free radical or oxidative stress. The best diet for them is one that is built on whole, unprocessed foods that are nutrient and antioxidant rich. Plant foods are rich sources of these compounds. To stay in health, we must master our metabolism and help its machinery run efficiently. Now, there's two types of fat. Tell me quickly before you look, what is it? What's the fat? And the other one? There's a subcutaneous fat. Remember, there's the one that's under the skin, and then the visceral fat is where? Amongst the organs, isn't it? Surrounds the organs, and that's the dangerous fat. Visceral fat is the fat that sits between our organs. Excessive amounts of this type of fat is significantly harmful to our health. It releases pro-inflammatory cytokines. What is a cytokine? Communicating molecules of the immune system. So, class, what is a cytokine? It's communicating molecules of the immune system. I think I'm going to do Dr. Bruce's job tonight. What do you think? I'll do the practical. You guys can start warming up for the exercises. We must minimize such fat accumulation and choose lifestyles that keep us lean, unhealthy.
Fat.
No, it must be healthy, doctor. I think it must be healthy. Oh, unhealthy fat. Ah, okay. But I don't know. Okay. So it must be lean, unhealthy fat fighting machines. Okay, I will step down. Exercise and move with purpose. Eat a calorie-low, nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory plant-based diet. Laugh, love, and live with passion. Okay, so smile a bit. It's good for the heart. Okay, so Dr. Bruce, we're happy to have you here tonight. And we're happy you all are here tonight. And we're having our last night tomorrow night. So make sure that you are here tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. Bruce.
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be back with you again. I'm starting to get used to your faces, so I hope we're going to become friends and stay friends. Tonight's an important topic, like hopefully all of them. And the nice thing that I feel about these topics is that some of these, like the nutrition one we spoke about on Sunday and exercise tonight, these things are so important. The nice thing about exercise, the nice thing about nutrition, is they have knock-on effects on everything. If you want, and when it comes to our busy lives, we want to find those things in our health that have the most impact. And in other words, they don't just affect one thing, but they affect a whole host of things. And exercise is one of those. If you really want to be well, this is an absolute non-negotiable. If I want to be well, I have to exercise. And to the degree that I don't, to that degree does my health suffer. And so does yours. So, I don't know if anybody's tried training like that with a parachute on your back. Pretty impressive, eh? That guy's serious about his mitochondria or something. Most of us, well, what fits your busy schedule better, exercising 1 hour a day or being dead 24 hours a day? I like his face, it's priceless. Garfield, I used to exercise, but I'm fine now. Doesn't look fine, why? Can't see his feet. When you get to the point you can't see your feet, there's a problem. In fact, quite a long time before then. And look at his food. Processed. That explains that. I might as well exercise. I'm in a bad mood anyway. I like that. Exercise, some motivation required. Some of us are a bit like that. We need something to chase us before we run. And many of us are like that. And some of that's subcutaneous fat, but a lot of that will be associated with visceral fat as well. So when your handles start to exceed your waist circumference, do you know the waist circumferences you've got to worry about? You know, your waist to hip ratio is very important. That's indicative or can indicate insulin resistance. So for ladies, if you measure your waist to hip ratio, and you measure it across your umbilicus or your belly button, measure your waist to hip ratio. For ladies, it must be less than, anybody know? 88 centimeters. And for guys, it must be less than 102. Who said 102? Give that man a piece of broccoli. So 102. Now that's not to say you must aim for 101. That's when you're starting to really get into problems. So ladies, measure your waist to hip ratio. Guys, measure your waist to hip ratio. Because it's the visceral fat that's accumulating in your belly, predominantly, that's really accelerating your cardiovascular risk. So if you put the one over the other, and you can get like 1.02, so just one ratio, one on top of the other, waist to hip ratio. Why are we fat, sick, and tired? Now, what I hope, let's go back a bit. What I really hope you're getting out of these lectures, I know there's been a lot of detail, but the whole thing I've been trying to show is that if we know why we get sick, we can be well. And I know that's a simple thing to keep saying, but it's really that profound. Just want to ask you today, as a show of hands, how much living food did you have today? Think about it. How many of you had more than 2 cups of broccoli? How many of you had fresh tomatoes and fresh lettuce and fresh celery? So if you look back on your diet on the last 24 to 36 hours, ask yourself how much of what I put in was alive. How much? That's great. Fantastic. Fantastic. So the reason we get fat, sick, and tired, because many of us find ourselves in that situation often, isn't it? We do mental type work, we sit at a desk, we push a mouse, and the reason we are getting fat, sick, and tired is because we become inflamed, stressed, toxic, nutrient depleted, hormonally deranged. And this is a big one, toxic. If you go I want to advocate, get into fasting every now and then. And I'm talking to the speaker as well. I need to fast more than I do. Fasting really gives your body a chance to get stuff out. And if you stop eating, remember every time you're putting in, your body's processing. And I'm going to get to exercise now. I'm just trying to give a little summary overview, just to remind us of the important points. Every time you eat something, you're putting stuff in. And depending on the state of your physiology, depending on the health of your gut, you can be putting more and more toxins in. A lot of those toxins are stored where? In the fat. They're stored in the fat. So if I'm constantly depositing, and what's the hormone that deposits, we said? What's the hormone that puts the stuff away? Insulin. So insulin is always depositing. It's always depositing, always depositing. And think about it. Many of us have lived 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 decades. And think of all the stuff you've put in those decades. And so we put in far more than we give chance to get out. And one of the things that really messes with our hormones is toxins. Things like heavy metals, pesticides, chemicals. So you do yourself a huge favor if once a week, even, you fasted. Do like a water fast. And just for a day. Just for a day. So, yeah. If your health allows it. I mean, if you've got no medical condition preventing it. But the point is, fasting gives your body a chance to have a break. Gives your body a chance to say, instead of depositing, I can actually spend some time cleaning. Does that make sense? And I mean, there's different ways of fasting. You can juice fast, you can water fast. When I say juice fast, I'm not talking about oros. I'm talking about vegetable juice. All right. So healthy juices. You give your body a chance not to have to digest. You know what the work of digestion is like? It's a massive amount of work to digest these macronutrients that you're chewing to get that stuff absorbed into a usable format. So fasting is a good way. And when you try it, I dare you to smell yourself at the end of the day. And the more you stink, it's telling you something. Your breath can stink. Your armpits can stink, to put it bluntly. And that's telling you something. Your body's getting a chance to get rubbish out. So to really be to be optimally well, you need to give periods of rest where you're getting stuff out as well. And there's various herbs that you can take and things that can help potentiate your detoxification route. Your body's generally very effective at detoxifying. Your liver is very good at that. But it makes sense to give yourself a break from time to time. So, we're made for wellness. We must pursue it. We must give this gift to ourselves. We must make empowering life-giving choices. Making empowering life-giving choices feels good. We must go for it. Today I went for lunch somewhere, and we have a choice every time we sit down for a meal. What am I going to have? And I'll be pleased to say that a big part of it was 2 big things of broccoli. And you eat like that and you feel the difference, don't you? Remember we said broccoli is a superfood. Broccoli, it's low calories, high fiber, nutrient dense. So remember we said to get 750 calories of broccoli you need how many cups? 21 cups. So whereas you can take 1 can of lemonade and get that or more. So broccoli. Choose superfoods. Choose living superfoods, and you will feel the benefit. That's why I'm challenging you to think, how much living food have you had in the last 36 hours? Physical fitness is your ability to carry out tasks without undue fatigue. Components of physical fitness, there's different types. There's cardiorespiratory fitness, endurance, muscle strength, muscle endurance, flexibility, and body composition. If we tested everyone in this room, some of us would score better in some of these than others. Some of us have better cardiopulmonary reserve than others. Some of us have stronger muscles. Some of it's genetics, most of it's lifestyle. Flexibility is something that we often neglect. Most of us can only touch our toes if we do this. So flexibility is a good sign of health. What is exercise? How do we define it? Exercise is an activity requiring physical effort, carried out specially to sustain or improve health and fitness. Exercise is physical activity that is planned, structured, and repetitive for the purpose of conditioning any part of the body. Exercise is used to improve health, maintain fitness, is important as a means of physical rehabilitation. This is the part we battle with, requiring physical effort, isn't it? To keep your body operating at level X, you periodically needed to take it to level X plus something. Does that make sense? If I operate at baseline here, and then I just keep it at baseline, my baseline's going to drop. But to keep it at baseline, you need to operate it at baseline plus every now and then. Does that make sense? So exercise is the way that we condition, we get the body to raise its bar by exercising. And by raising its bar periodically, we keep our operating level going well. Does that make sense? So how often are we raising the bar? How often do I stretch my cardiopulmonary reserve? How often am I using my muscles? We look at muscular health just now. Busy slide, but during extremely high fever, approaching the level of lethality or death, body metabolism increases to approximately 100% above normal. By comparison, metabolism of the body during a marathon race increases to 2,000% above normal. So exercise fundamentally affects your metabolic rate. And we'll see that it also increases your metabolic rate for up to 24 hours after certain types of exercise. So if you really want to maintain your fat-burning potential, you want to do particularly things like strength training. If you go to the gym and lift some weights, you can increase your metabolic rate for up to 24 hours after that workout. This is an interesting point. Female muscle is as strong per square centimeter as men's. It's just that we have more of it. So if you test a lady's muscle compared to a man's muscle, they're exactly the same strength, but our testosterone and androgen levels give us more muscle, generally speaking. You get ladies that will intimidate some men, but the average is what I've just said. Being fit, biochemically speaking, means that the individual has a well-developed cardiovascular system that can efficiently supply nutrients and oxygen to the muscles. Fit people have muscle cells that are well perfused with capillaries. They have good blood supply. Their muscle cells also have a large number of mitochondria. We've heard that before. And these mitochondria have a highly active Krebs cycle, which is part of your metabolism, electron transport carriers, and oxidation enzymes. By comparison, individuals who are unfit must endure the consequences of poorer blood supply, fewer mitochondria, less electron transport units, a lower activity of the Krebs cycle, and poorer activity of beta oxidation enzymes. That's for fat breakdown. To generate ATP in the mitochondria, a steady supply of fuel and oxygen and decent activity of the oxidizing enzymes and carriers are needed. If any of these components are lacking, the rate at which ATP can be produced by mitochondria is compromised. Just to give you an idea of what happens in the fit versus the non-fit state. The fascinating thing about our bodies is that when we challenge them, like I said just now, they raise the bar. So your enzymes are induced by activity. The whole body is designed on a cause and effect principle. Use it or lose it. So what we don't use of our physical and mental and our mental strengths, we lose. So we have to periodically challenge those things to keep them in best operating condition. And that's what exercise is doing. It's raising the bar. So how often have you raised the bar in the last week? Think about it. Types of exercise. Strength exercise, flexibility exercise, balance, endurance. How do you rate on some of these? If I had to get you to run up the road and back, how would you fare? And obviously this changes with our age. We've got to talk about age-appropriate exercise and age-appropriate levels of health. So if you're 65 or 70, I'm not saying that you must have the flexibility of a 25-year-old. That's unreasonable. You must be a healthy 65-year-old. The hardest step a runner takes is the first one out the door. Especially if it's cold and it's winter, isn't it? Yeah. But it's what you feel like when you get back, and that hour after you get back. Types of exercise. We know, everybody knows this. There's aerobic exercise, anaerobic exercise, flexibility exercises. So aerobic, we all know, is running, walking, tennis, hiking, cycling, focus on increasing cardiovascular endurance. So if you want an interesting read, go and Google the physiology of exercise. See what happens to your body during exercise. Let's just look at one aspect of it. Say I decide to run up the road. Where does that decision happen? It happens up here, right? My mind controls my muscles. I start to use my muscles with increasing strength and frequency. Correct? What happens then? What's the consequence of that? Yeah, so what's happening if I use my muscles? I'm just trying to get you to think of what's happening when you exercise. You're building up carbon dioxide, aren't you? By using muscles, your cells more, they're respiring more, they produce more carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide diffuses into your medulla, which is your breathing center, which causes you to breathe faster. You get more pumping of the muscles, pumping of the blood from the big muscles of your legs, which increases the venous return back to your heart. The heart is designed, did you know this? The heart is designed a thing called a Frank Starling mechanism. Anybody that's done physiology will learn about Frank Starling, which simply means that the more you stretch the heart muscle, the stronger it contracts. So the greater your volume filling your ventricle, the bigger the ventricular stretch, the stronger the ventricular contraction. Isn't that amazing? So if you stretch heart muscle, it returns by contracting stronger. So one of the things that you're doing when you exercise is you're increasing venous return. So you're pooling more blood getting back into the left ventricle, which is creating what we call a bigger end diastolic volume. The volume inside your left ventricle is bigger as a consequence, which is stretching the left ventricle, which is making it contract stronger. And over time, if you do that more and more, you strengthen your heart muscle. And as a result, you can keep your cardiac output up and drop your heart rate while still dropping your heart rate because each contraction is stronger. Does that make sense? So that's some interesting stuff that's going to be happening when you exercise. You think about it, you're building up your CO2, increasing my venous return, increasing my left ventricular end diastolic volume and the strength of contraction and the strength of my heart muscle. Anaerobic exercise, such as weight training, increase short-term muscle strength. So if you go and lift weights at a gym, that's what we call anaerobic exercise because it's short burst type activity. If you're exercising at a rapid pace, you actually exceed the capacity of your enzyme system to process fuel efficiently. So you go into what's called anaerobic exercise. And the more you do that, the more you build up what? Lactic acid. Which is why if you haven't done it in a while, you build up a lot of lactic acid which sits in your muscles. It normally goes back to the liver for processing. But because if you're unfit, that process isn't working so well, so it sits in your muscles and you can't walk for the next 2 days after you exercise. That's lactate. Okay, so anaerobic exercise occurs under low oxygen conditions. So when things are happening so rapidly and so vigorously that you can't keep up using the aerobic pathway, your metabolism goes into an anaerobic pathway where it functions under low oxygen conditions. And weightlifting is that kind of exercise. It falls into that category. And the principle of weightlifting is stressing a muscle. There's two types. So you're loading a muscle, and by loading it, you cause the muscle to grow in size. That's what you're doing. It's hypertrophying the muscle, we call it. And that's a very important part, because we looked at metabolism. Your muscle mass affects your basal metabolic rate. Your muscle mass affects your joint strength. Those are some of the important things. Flexibility exercise, such as stretching, improve the range of motion of muscles and joints. I was actually thinking if there was a physio here that could get us to all stand up and do some stretches tonight, but I'm not aware. Are there any physios here? No. Okay. I mean, they're not difficult. You can Google some decent exercises, neck ones and back ones, leg ones. It's important to stretch. It's better to stretch a warm muscle as well, generally speaking. Aerobic exercise builds endurance by keeping the heart pumping for an extended period of time. Benefits of aerobic exercise: you get a stronger heart, we said, increase the total number of red blood cells, improve breathing, improve muscle health, weight loss, disease reduction, like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke, some forms of cancer, improved immune system, improved mental health. We're going to look at some of that, increased stamina. So in the short term, if you've just done it, exercise might make you feel tired. But after a while, you're actually feeling energized. Think about it. You've actually increased the rate of your circulation. You've increased oxygen delivery. You've changed your gases. Your system's charged. It's alive. Remember, the more blood flowing through your liver, the more you're detoxifying. Because it's when the blood flows through the liver, you're detoxifying, flowing through the kidneys. So you're breathing out, you're sweating. So exercise is doing wonderful things for your physiology. Strength training, anaerobic exercise, enhances power and builds muscle. Can provide significant functional benefits and improvements in overall health and well-being, including increased bone, muscle, tendon, and ligament strength, toughness and endurance, improved joint function, reduced potential for injury resulting from weak muscles. That's an important point. As you age, as I said, one of the things of aging is really got to keep our muscle mass up. The stronger our muscles, the stronger our joints. The stronger our muscles, the better our metabolism. The better our hormonal health, the stronger our muscles. If you look at the knee joint, for instance, the knee joint's an amazing joint. Your muscle mass, the types of muscles and the size of them and their strength that surround your joints protects your joints. So you're at greater risk of joint injuries if your muscles are weak and lax. So part of muscular strength is to maintain joint strength. Improved cardiac function, we'll look at that, elevated good HDL cholesterol. Can also help maintain lean body mass, decrease the risk of osteoporosis, develop coordination and balance. You know, the body is so wonderfully designed and it's so complex. Most of us just take it for granted. If I close my eyes and I hold up my hand like this, I know where my hand is in space, as do you. How does that work? We've got little things called proprioceptors. Proprioceptors tell us about the position sense of our body in different body parts. My position of my head. There's little semicircular canals telling me which way my head is turned. You don't have to, if I close my eyes, I can tell you which way I'm moving my head because I've got motion sensors. So do you, obviously. So this is amazing. So these kind of things we take for granted. You know, strength, doing exercise and training, you strengthening proprioception, you're strengthening nerve feedback, you're doing all sorts of things. You're feeding your brain with information. You must think, and ultimately what we're doing is whenever you strengthen your muscles and your movement and your joints, you're putting this flood of information back to the brain. So exercise is boosting your brain activity, and we'll see exactly what it does. But think about it. Movements, nerve stimulation, keeping things going. You don't want things to become static. So movement is medicine. You must have seen that saying in some of the fancy gyms. Movement is medicine. We're not made to sit and be inactive. So how much exercise do we need? Who knows? This is an average recommendation. Before we look at this, let's go across the room. How many are getting more than 2 hours of cardiovascular exercise a week? Fantastic. 2, 3. 2 hours in a week is not a lot, you know that. It's actually not a lot. And at the moment, I don't think I can raise my hand, but I'm trying to get there. But 2 hours is what? If you exercise 5 days a week, it's 2.5 hours actually. It's 150 minutes. The recommendation is at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity. So this is the amount of exercise we need to stay healthy, at a minimum. We need moderate intensity exercise, aerobic activity for about 150 minutes a week. That's 30 minutes a day for 5 days. It's not a lot. In fact, that's actually quite a conservative figure these days. They're actually recommending more, like 45 minutes to an hour, to work up to that a day. You can skip a day. It's always good to have a day's rest in the week. But try and aim for at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic activity. So that's running, that's cycling, that's playing tennis, walking briskly. Plus, you need to do in addition to that, in addition to, you need to do some muscle strengthening activities on 2 or more days a week that'll work all your major muscle groups. Legs, hips, back, abdomen, chest, shoulders, and arms. Okay, so what are the major muscle groups? We've got our pecs, we've got our lats, we've got our traps, we've got our deltoids, we've got quads, we've got calves, we've got abs, hopefully, somewhere. So those are the core muscle groups. And so on 2 or more days of the week, you've got to work all the major muscle groups. So at least of those 2 days, that would mean if you're just going to do 2 days, you have to do what? At least about 4 muscle groups a day. And it's not hard to design a program that does that. You know, and you don't even have to go to a gym to do this. You can get yourself a little set of dumbbells if you can afford it, or you can use, if you really want to go cheap, you can get yourself 2 5-liter bottles and fill them with water, different stages of water, and do some side lateral raises, and you do push-ups, and you've got to exercise the major muscle groups. Or, if you're not going to do that, you must do 1 hour and 50 minutes or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity aerobic activities, such as jogging and running every week, and muscle strengthening activities the same, or an equivalent mix of moderate and vigorous intensity aerobic activity. So the point is, you want to get a good mixture of aerobic and muscle strengthening activity in your week if you're going to stay healthy. So most of us didn't put up our hands when we asked about 2.5 hours, did we? And this is a conservative recommendation. So that means most of us in the room are not optimally healthy at an exercise level. So we could be having a whole lot more. And I'm going to aim for more. I'm determined to get there. I'm talking to me as much as to you. So why exercise? Frequent and regular aerobic exercise has been shown to help prevent or treat serious and life-threatening chronic conditions such as high blood pressure, obesity, heart disease, type 2 diabetes, insomnia, and depression. Virtually all of the chronic medical illnesses that you can think of, your risk is improved or lessened of getting these things if you exercise. So, like I said, because our time is limited in life, we need to find those single health factors that carry the most bang for their buck. And exercise is right up there. Nutrition is right up there. Rest is right up there. So these are the things that have the most knock-on effect. Controlling your insulin is right up there. They have the biggest knock-on effect because you don't have time to focus on 70,000 things in your health. You want to focus on the core things that have the biggest knock-on effect. And so exercise is one of those that you must hold dear if you really want to be healthy. Strength training appears to have continuous energy-burning exercise, like I said, that persists for about 24 hours after the training. Isn't that a nice feeling? You go to the gym. I'm determined I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. I don't know how, where, I'm going to make it happen. Now, I'm not saying gym's the only place to go for muscle strength. It is an option. And there's negatives about gym as well, but I'm going to get some strength training done tomorrow. Think about it. You have a decent training session. You're going to increase your metabolic rate for up to 24 hours, depending on what you eat and stuff afterwards. And remember, we said that once you've exercised, you want to wait at least an hour before you eat again, because you get your maximum fat burning capacity in that hour post-exercise. So, and if you can delay it a bit further, then good. You've got yourself revved up. You're churning through calories using fat, hopefully, instead of your glycogen supplies, well, depending on your glycogen stores and how vigorously you've exercised. But nice feeling to think that you're churning through calories at a faster rate if you're trying to lose weight once you've done some strength training. They do not offer the same cardiovascular benefit of aerobic exercise, but both aerobic and anaerobic also work to increase the mechanical efficiency of the heart, which we spoke about. So like I said, if you go now to the gym and you do squats, everybody hates squats. You work in the quad muscles. These are very important muscles. The big muscle groups in your legs, like we said, when you exercise your quads, and you can do squats at home. You can do standing squats. You know the standing squats? Put your legs shoulder width apart and do squats like that all the way down. I'm not going to demonstrate. But the point is, I would need my training trousers on to do it. But the point is when you exercise your quads, what are you doing? You're increasing your venous return, we said. So you must try and find exercises that engage the big muscle groups. Because you'll find, you go do, those 45-degree incline squats that you can do in the gym. Anybody seen that machine? Or leg press. You increase like that. You go do some of those puppies. Hey. What happens? You're sitting there and you do some of those and your heart is going, doo, doo, doo. Have you had that? And why is that? Because you're engaging the big muscle groups, which is increasing your venous return, which is increasing the heart going into the left ventricle, which is stretching your left ventricle further, which is doing what? Increasing the force of contraction. So once you start thinking about what's happening, it starts to get exciting about trying to get this thing to a good level. So I challenge you tomorrow, go do some strength training exercises. Make some time. Make an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Flexibility. Unused muscles become tight, restrict joint movement, cause pain with an increased potential for injury, and affect body posture and alignment. That's a very, very important point about strength training, is that most of us, as I said, we end up looking like bent over rats and question marks because we haven't maintained the strength of our core muscles, the main muscles that control our posture. And a healthy posture is not just something that helps you look good. A healthy posture affects how your organs, whether they're squashed and cramped, and how they function. So we're designed to stand up in a certain way. We're designed to look a certain way when we stand. And our pelvis gets rotated this way, that way, because our balance gets out. We lose our strength in our abs. We sit, we hyperextend our backsides. It's just, that's all has to do with our muscle tone and strength. So I believe a really worthwhile goal of strength training to try and get to is to restore your posture. You must look and see where your posture is out of alignment and learn which muscles are involved in maintaining that part of your anatomy. If you look at the pelvis, as I said, you look at the pelvis from the side. The pelvis can rotate anteriorly or posteriorly, and there's various muscles that are involved in that process. So a healthy posture is a sign of good musculoskeletal health. And like we're looking at all the systems involved in health, the musculoskeletal wellness is often neglected. We think of our guts, we think of our hormones, but we don't think of musculoskeletal wellness. We end up with I see the pastor rubbing his shoulder there. We end up with tense traps. We end up with sternocleidomastoids, these muscles here that are shortened and contracted because of our emotional tension. You know, we're supposed to stand with our chins down, our chest out, our shoulders back, and we all end up doing this kind of thing somewhere along the line, you know. And what happens then? When you alter the biomechanics in your spine, you're altering what? You're altering the forces on your joints. So when you lose your posture, you change the forces on your joints. When you change the forces on your joints, you start wearing them down faster. You get what? Osteoarthritis. So one of the causes of osteoarthritis is changed biomechanical forces on a joint. So if you want to maintain musculoskeletal wellness, those of you that are still young in the room, I hope some of us can still class ourselves as young, focus on musculoskeletal balance and good posture, and maintain the muscles of good posture. That'll decrease your risk of lower back pain. Lower back pain, we shouldn't get lower back pain. The reason we get lower back pain, apart from obvious things like trauma and those kind of things, is because of our postures. Sometimes we inherit vertebral columns that have different degrees of curve, but largely it has to do with the balance of our muscles maintaining our posture. So, poor muscle tone, poor posture. Poor posture, altered biomechanical forces. Altered biomechanical forces, pain. Long-standing pain and poor forces, arthritis. Makes you think, doesn't it? So things don't just happen in the body. They happen because of what we're doing or not doing. Unused muscles become tight, restrict joint movement, cause pain with an increased potential for injury and affect body posture and alignment. Put all your joints through their full range of motion in a day. That's quite a challenge. I challenge you to go find out what is the normal range of motion of your joints. You've got so many joints in the body. Make sure you take your joints through their full range of motion in a day. Do some shoulder rotations. Maybe we should stand up and do some of those now. Do you want to do some of that? Stand up and do some shoulder rotations, some neck turns. Let's stand up. Yeah, let's have a break and do some stretches. We're nearly done anyway. So, do some shoulder stretch shrugs. I'm not a pro at this. I'm just saying do some. Stretch yourself. And then rotate your shoulders. Go all the way around, back. Do it slowly. Don't injure yourself. Stretch it out. You're probably feeling clicking and all sorts of things. And then put them forward. Stretch your neck. Side to side. You stretch your neck like this to the side, gently. And the other way, gently. You stretch it forward. You can feel where the tension is, isn't it? And keep things moving. Stretch your thighs. You can do this. Yeah. Hopefully you can stand on one leg. Don't fall. Stretch your thighs. Yeah. And then the hammies. The hammies. Try and touch your toes. How short are those hamstrings? Try and touch the toes. Don't bend your legs. Yeah. Stretch your triceps. So a nice tricep extension. So you keep your arm relaxed and stretch your triceps out. The main action of the tricep is to extend the elbow joint. So we're stretching our triceps. Hold the contraction. You can do the thing called an isometric contraction, where you contract the muscle against a non-lengthening force. So just keep it in tense there. Stretch it out. Hold it for 5 seconds. Do a couple of those a day. So you're going to do tricep dips. Feels good. You can work those things. So we must learn, and then abs. We forgot about the flabdominals. The flabdominals. So ab exercises are very important. Who wants to do some ab exercise? I'm not going to demonstrate. Chris, come do some abs. So yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. But a good way to have a seat. A good way to do your ab work is to keep your feet on the ground, all right? So bend your knees, keep your feet on the ground, and then bring your abs up. Try and keep your back flat on the ground, your pelvis nicely flat on the ground. Engage the core muscles. And these are things you can do at home. It's not rocket science, and if you get some light weights, you can do some of these things. Stretch to the point of comfortable tension and hold that for 5 to 8 seconds. Never stretch to pain and don't bounce. Don't go, it's not going to do you well. You can actually tear your muscle, get a muscle strain. The key to flexibility is consistency, like anything good, and frequency. If you've got a spouse that's compassionate, that really loves you, hopefully, get a massage, a nice massage. A good massage done well is extremely therapeutic. And I would advise married couples to learn to massage one another properly. Get olive oil, get these, what are some of the nice oils? Arnica oil. And learn to massage each other properly. It eases tension, it increases your lymphatic return. But remember, when you're massaging, you are pushing a lot of toxins from the tissue into the lymphatic system, and it goes back to the heart. So you can get detox-type feelings and headaches after massage. You must always drink plenty of water. But massage is very therapeutic. Touch is very therapeutic. We're made to touch and be touched and experience touch in healthy ways. The key to flexibility, correct breathing is important. Inhale before the stretch, exhale while holding it. Resistant exercise is very important. So that's weight training is one of them. It's one form of resistance. You can get elements of resistance training. Swimming is a great form of exercise. Swimming incorporates resistance training and cardiovascular. It's a very good form of exercise. And you're at low risk of injuring yourself because you're in water. So cycling is a great form of cardiovascular exercise. Also quite a low risk, low impact type of exercise. Unless you're mountain biking and falling all over the place, then it's high impact. Begin with the larger muscles of the legs, mid and upper back, chest, arms, and abdominals. Nothing produces the feeling of vibrant health more than regular exercise and staying fit. A physically fit person cuts his heart attack risk in half. The psychological benefits motivate most people. Exercise stimulates the secretion of endorphins. You know that. They've actually found that, or what's been suggested is one of the things that, so endorphins are basically, you know what morphine is? It's an opioid drug that actually mimics the action of these endorphins that your body makes to modulate pain. Endorphins are chemicals made by the body to modulate your pain response. And exercise releases endorphins, which is why many people become addicted to exercise, because opioids are actually addictive. And it's a good addiction. That feeling of euphoria you get, that feeling of feeling like on cloud nine and that you're on top of the world, is the endorphins. So you must get used to enjoying endorphins. It'll keep you coming back. And the thing that often stimulates the endorphins is when your chest wall is expanding. So your chest wall is moving. So if I'm going to call exercise going to the mailbox and getting my mail and coming back, I'm not getting deep breathing. I'm not getting sweating. You want to break a sweat? You want to break a sweat? And you want to be doing deep breathing. That deep breathing, that chest wall excursion, stimulates the endorphin release. So those are some of the things to aim for. If you're not breaking a sweat, you're not working hard enough. But do it graded. You don't go out if you've never done fitness stuff and run the comrades tomorrow. You're not gonna cope. Yeah, no, we can talk about that, absolutely. Look, I mean, Comrades is a long marathon. I don't believe we're meant to run miles and miles and miles and miles. Remember that when we overbreathe, we generate a lot of free radical stress. So over-exercise is also not good. It is balance, absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you've been doing... We'll give them a few minutes. Just focus on your breathing. Breathe through your nose, in and out through your nose, using your diaphragm. The cat. Must have been quite an impressive cat. Okay. Apparently the lady had a phobia for cats. Must be quite a big phobia, or a big cat. One of the two. So exercise works very well to reduce anxiety and nervous tension. If you're feeling anxious and stressed and depressed, I find one of the tragedies of mental illness is that it locks us in a cycle. When you're depressed, you don't feel like exercising. When you don't exercise, you feel depressed. So if you feel depressed, please get out on a sunny day, go for a brisk walk, breathing in and out through your nose. Drink a nice vegetable juice from celery and tomato and all the healthy veg. And I'm pretty sure you'll feel better when you get back. Now, there's different types of depression and different degrees of depression. But if you're depressed, there's most often a reason. Let's do the healthy things first. That's what we're saying with these seminars. Put the things in place first before you resort to a pill. The body's giving you signals because it's got a problem. It's out of balance. There's something irritating it. So intelligence is learning to know what those signals are and how to work with them. CNS overstimulation. Catecholamines are poison to the body. So catecholamines are things like adrenaline. If you're constantly stressed and tired, stressed and driven, you've got plenty of these catecholamine type compounds circulating in your body. One of the best ways to get rid of that after a bad day at work is to go get some exercise. You've got to get rid of those things through physical use. So we all sit at a desk, we've got time pressures, we've got tax returns to do, we've got all sorts of things. And, we build up these compounds which are toxic to us. In fact, there's a condition of the heart, and the name escapes me now. But if you have acute stress, the catecholamines, like a really stressful time, like in an instant, you can cause heart failure from these catecholamines. So heart failure is normally something that comes over a long time because of a valve problem or a heart attack or some other myocardial or heart muscle problem. Acute stress is one of the things that actually literally damages your heart. So you want to get rid of these toxic stress compounds. These harmful products of adrenaline can only be used up or neutralized by physical exercise. Nervous tension should be balanced by physical exercise. I wish I had done more of that when I was studying, Mrs. Upton, my first degree. I stayed with Mrs. Upton, and I just studied. I just had my nose in the book. That's all I did. I hardly went out, and those of you that are studying, please keep the balance. If I can give you really good advice, balance your studies with physical exercise. Go to a gym, join a gym, go running, get a bicycle. Your studies, your grades will improve. And if you don't do it, your performance will suffer. So cardio benefits. Improve sleep. You fall asleep 54% faster and sleep 37% longer when you exercise regularly. Pumps oxygen to the brain, improved heart health, improved brain function, increased bone density. Well, that one's interesting because there's a principle in bone physiology. If you cut through a cross-section of a bone, if you take like the femur. Yes, there's a man who knows about Wolff's Law. So Wolff's Law says that bone is deposited where stress is applied, and in its absence is removed. So if you take cross-sections of your bones, you can see patterns of bone deposition based on the stress lines running through that bone. Isn't that amazing? So where your body's experiencing stress in that bone, it deposits bone, which is why the guys that spend a long time in outer space, what happens to them? There's no gravity, so they don't put weight on their bones. So the calcium gets resorbed at risk of kidney stones and things like that. So they've got to take, there's all sorts of things that happen. We take gravity for granted, and we're designed to live and work in gravity. So exercise increases your bone density, decreasing your risk of osteoporosis. Smile more, alleviates depression more than medication. I'd like to fall asleep 54% faster and sleep 37% longer. That sounds pretty good. The heart. Exercise can change your lipid profile. Those of you battling with cholesterol, one of the most potent combinations you can have is a proper, committed exercise program plus a dietary change. Those two together, if it's not familial hypercholesterolemia, which is, you get 5 different types of genetic hypercholesterolemia, which people can have. And there's a family in the South African history that is well known to have these genetic causes. But apart from that, if you combine exercise with dietary changes, you can fundamentally change your lipid profile. Fundamentally, dramatically. There was a guy by the name of Dean Ornish. Has anybody heard of Dean Ornish? I think he wrote or co-authored Forks Over Knives, didn't he? So that thing on your DVD, I think Dean Ornish was part of that. He's done a lot of really good research. And he said that if you get your total cholesterol less than 3.7, you know we've been speaking about atherosclerosis and atherosclerotic risk in the arteries. He said if you get your cholesterol less than 3.7, you start to reverse atherosclerosis. Now that was a previously unheard of concept. We always just thought atherosclerosis continues until you die. And it does if you don't change your lifestyle. But you can actually reverse that deposition, and that deposition is part of the pathology that causes heart attacks. Remember we said insulin's a massive part of that. But exercise and dietary changes can reverse the damage to your arteries. That's profound. That's profound. Isn't this not, this kind of knowledge is empowering, isn't it? It really motivates you to try. You get up tomorrow and you think, is it going to be Cocoa Pops? Or a nice juice and some oats, nuts, seeds. Get creative. I love breakfast, the best meal of the day. So that's skeletal health. We said exercise. This guy's lacking a few muscles, but he's skeletally all right. So exercise improves your bone health. Brain health. I like that picture. And this is ultimately who we are, is what's happening between this ear and that ear. Hopefully something. Brain benefits of exercise. Increased production of neurochemicals that promote brain cell repair. That's BDNF. Improves memory, lengthens attention span, boosts decision-making skills, promotes growth of new nerve cells and blood vessels, improves multitasking and planning. So if you've got a big business meeting coming up at, say, 10 a.m., go get some exercise. Pour on the brain fertilizer. That's what you're doing. Aerobic exercise enriches the brain environment via BDNF, that's brain-derived neurotropic factor. It boosts neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, helps you encode or process new information better. Exercise is one of the secret weapons to overcoming depression. Studies have shown its efficiency typically surpasses the antidepressants. Profound. One of the ways exercise promotes mental health is by normalizing insulin resistance and boosting natural feel-good hormones and neurotransmitters associated with mood control, including endorphin, serotonin, like we said, and even GABA. Mice with well-trained muscles, I'd like to see a mouse with a well-trained muscle, have higher levels of an enzyme that helps metabolize a stress chemical called kynurenine. That's a brain chemical. Suggests that exercising your muscles actually helps rid your body of stress chemicals that can lead to depression. Boost creativity. If you want to design something, if you're an architect or an artist or writing a book or poem to the one that you love, go exercise. Boost brain health, brain growth and regeneration via BDNF. This stuff is literally the fertilizer for the brain. So brain-derived neurotropic factor. We said that intermittent fasting boosts your brain-derived neurotropic factor. And we said that exercise boosts your brain-derived neurotropic factor. So most medical students, when they go through med school, they get taught what? The liver can regenerate, the kidney can regenerate, but the brain, once you lose your neurons. I remember I was told that as a kid, and I got so paranoid about losing brain neurons. I thought every time I knocked my head, that was it. I'm getting thicker, you know. And I was scared of that, you know, and it's not true. We find now that you've heard of stem cells, right? The brain can regenerate. Isn't that amazing? The brain neurons can regenerate. The things that, so you're either growing and developing or you're regressing and dying. And what we're doing is determining that. And that's profound. So you and I get to choose the kind of progress we're going to make in this life. It's all in our hands. So I'd like a few of my neurons to be regenerating. I want a few more. I'd like them to be around for a bit longer. Brain-derived neurotropic factor. Keep it high. Keep it going. Exercise, intermittent fasting, keeps your BDNF up. Yeah, it depends on your health, but I think a once-a-week fast is not a bad idea. Hey? Once a week. You can start by once every 2 weeks if you want to, but if you can build up to once a week, you'll do your body a good service. So that's a depressed patient, and that's a not depressed patient. That's a scan of the brain. The really interesting thing about neurology at the moment is that we're now in the era of functional scans. So you can, previously we used to go do a CT scan and MRI, which one can still do. Those are anatomical scans. Largely. They basically look for gross pathology. If I have a tumor in my brain, I can pick it up on an MRI. But now we're in the era where you can do functional MRIs. You can give a certain radionucleotide probe, and you can see which parts of the brain are lighting up under certain conditions. And so there's a guy by the name of Dr. Amen. Has anybody heard of Dr. Amen's work? If you want to read some interesting stuff on the brain, go read Dr. Amen's work. He's doing functional brain scans called SPECT scans, SPECT CTs. And he's looking at, I'm digressing a little bit, but it's interesting. And he's doing these scans to see which parts of the brain are over or under functioning. And they're finding now the structures in the brain that are involved in depression, that are involved in these anxiety states, that are involved in various neuropsychiatric presentations. So this is the way I believe psychiatry is going to move, is that we're going to be able to see from a person's brain which parts are balanced, which are not balanced. And it helps you target therapy to those kind of areas. And most of them are remediable by lifestyle changes, or many of them are. That's right. The lighting up areas is activity, whereas that brain is very suppressed. And though this scan doesn't show it very well, but depression is very much a frontal lobe problem. The part of the brain that you really want to potentiate, like we keep saying, is your frontal lobe. What's happening in your frontal lobe is very, very important. And we need to look at the things that are boosting our frontal lobe activity, the things that are suppressing our frontal lobe activity. And I actually should do a lecture on that, because I've got a lot of material on that, and it's really profound stuff. We don't have to live as victims in life. We need to make empowering choices to give our brains the best possible chance. Exercise boosts frontal lobe activity. Sleep boosts frontal lobe activity. Proper diet. Caffeine suppresses frontal lobe activity. Or caffeine has a net deleterious effect on your frontal lobe. It unbalances the frontal lobe. It actually boosts your dopamine, but it affects two other neurochemicals, one called acetylcholine, and the other one escapes me now. But caffeine unbalances your mind. It might give you a lift, but long term it's going to unbalance your mind. Adenosine is the other neurotransmitter effect. The way caffeine works, you know how caffeine works while we're on caffeine? So you know how caffeine works? You've got a neurotransmitter in your brain that's called adenosine. Adenosine's like, when you go home tonight, and hopefully you're going to use your brake and not just your accelerator, the brake in your car is the adenosine. So the way your brain keeps nice in control and slows things down is using adenosine. And adenosine acts on receptors. How caffeine works is it blocks the adenosine receptors. That's one of the major mechanisms of caffeine's action. So if I take Rhino Killer coffee now, I'm going to block my adenosine receptors. And that's why you feel alert, because the brake is gone. You've taken off. Now, most of us wouldn't drive home without a brake in our car. But we do the same thing to our brain. And we expect that it's going to stay in balance long term. So caffeine, in my opinion, is something we should not include in our diet. No, that brake's supposed to be there. Remember, there's stimulatory neurotransmitters in the brain, and there's inhibitory neurotransmitters. We need things that can speed things up. We need things that can slow things down. The brain in balance has the right balance of stimulatory to inhibitory neurotransmitters. That's a balanced brain. When our brains get out of balance, we can get GABA deficient, we can get dopamine excess, we can get dopamine deficiency, we can get serotonin excess, we can get serotonin deficiency, we can get blockage of adenosine receptors. So the balance, how we're feeling, like we said the other night, the function of our brains is determined by the net balance of our neurotransmitters. So a healthy person has balanced neurotransmitters. So caffeine works by removing the brake effect of the brain. Now, it's obviously dose dependent on how long you do it. I'm not saying one cup of coffee is going to kill you. Clearly it doesn't, because half the world's on it. But the issue is you're affecting the delicate balance of your brain machinery. So long term, not to be done. In fact, I'd say avoid it altogether. Brain after sitting quietly looks like that. After a 20-minute walk, ons kan bietjie dink. Daar's lewe daar binne. So, your brain loves the gym. Norepinephrine is released. BDNF is released, like we said. Hormones combine with BDNF to grow brain cells, regulate mood, and provide mental clarity. Hippocampus is the structure involved in memory in your brain. Grows in size with regular exercise over time. So if you've got copious amounts of stuff to remember, go to the gym and say, come hippocampus, let's go. Endorphins are released during the sensation of pain, dulling the sensation of pain. Serotonin is released, enhancing mood. Blood flow to the brain increases, delivering more oxygen and nutrients, improving waste removal. Dopamine is released, improving motivation, focus, and learning. So it has antidepressive effects, anti-anxiety effects, anti-stress effects, improves your self-esteem. Regular exercise has a positive effect on the general health of people with diseases or chronic conditions and can lessen the severity of emotional disorders by giving the person a sense of greater control. If you've had a good workout session, you feel pretty calm, don't you? You feel like you can conquer the world. So, often we focus on our diets, we focus on trying to get our sleep right, we focus on taking this and other supplement and, this kind of thing, but we neglect exercise. Exercise is a non-negotiable, like flossing, which you're all doing now, isn't it? Oh, okay. I just thought, just end this little talk, just on one little slide, just to show you some useful biomarkers. If you want to jot these down, you're welcome to. If you're going to have some blood tests done with your GP, these are some things which are useful to know. Now, I'm not saying everybody must do them. You can discuss them with your GP whether he agrees that he wants to do them with you. But these are things that are useful for you to know. Full blood count, that can tell you about whether you're anemic, what type of anemia you have, whether you have an infection. That's useful information. If you haven't had one of those done in a year or so, it's not a bad idea to do. HSCRP, that measures your inflammation in your body. So HSCRP tells you about how much inflammation is going on, specifically indicative of your cardiovascular risk. It's also called a cardiac CRP. A lipid profile. Try and get one of the advanced lipid profiles. Lipid testing or fat testing has come a long way. Ask the lab that you go to, do they have any advanced lipid profiles that they're offering? They probably will say no. Back it's still in SA, we're still catching up. But advanced lipid profiles are the way to go. Remember a thing called lipoprotein A. Lipoprotein A is a type of sort of fat in the blood that can be an independent risk factor for cardiovascular disease that not everybody tests for. It's not a bad idea to know your lipoprotein A level. Fasting morning homocysteine. That's very important. Someone needs to exercise. So, let's just carry on. So, fasting morning homocysteine, that can tell you how well you're doing that process we said called methylation. So, methylation is important for brain and body health. Homocysteine is bad for your arteries, yes. It acts a bit like barbed wire on your arteries. So you want to keep your homocysteine ideally less than 6.1. If you're less than 7, you're doing still very well. So homocysteine is important to know. B2, B6, folate, and B12. So homocysteine is affected by your vitamin status and the enzymes involved in its metabolism. Remember we said that certain genes code for enzymes. If you've got a genetic deletion in your enzymes, you can affect how you process or do that methylation cycle. So homocysteine can be affected by vitamin deficiencies and also by genetic mutations. Vitamin B12 and folate, they're going to feed into that homocysteine cycle. So if your B12 is low or not turning properly, if you don't have enough folate or if you don't have enough active folate, that can affect your homocysteine level. I'll show you the cycle just now if you get a moment. Then if indicated, if you're worried about your insulin sensitivity, it's not a bad idea to get a glucose tolerance test done. If you think that you might be insulin resistant, and many of us are, doing at least a 2-hour glucose tolerance test with an insulin level at time naught and an insulin level at 2 hours with your glucose levels is going to be telling you quite a lot of information between how your body's responding to insulin and glucose. Yes, you can. Yeah. Vitamin D level. Interestingly enough, this is slowly catching on, but you should know what your vitamin D level is. How many of you here know what your vitamin D level is? No one? Aziko. Aziko. What's that? Yeah, but vitamin D has been associated. Many of us are sitting indoors. We're sitting behind glass pane windows. We're not getting that UV that's causing enough vitamin D production. So it's not a bad test to know. You need to know what your level is. And vitamin D, if you're insulin resistant, vitamin D has been shown. If you're insulin resistant, you must know your vitamin D level, because vitamin D has been shown to improve your insulin sensitivity and get things back towards baseline. Hormone profile, we've spoken a lot about that. So that's just some basic things that you could ask your GP about and say, listen, I'm 50, 60, 20, 30, I want to be proactive. Let's look at some of these biomarkers. And that's all for tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bruce. We have time for 3 questions.
Does a young man like me at 92 follow the same exercise regimen?
Yeah, that's a very relevant question. Depends if you want to live another 92 years. No. Absolutely. You change your exercise protocol according to your age and what you're able to do safely. So like we were talking with you the other night, exercise, doing water exercises is a good thing for you. It's low impact. You've got buoyancy. You're not at risk of jamming into your joints so much. But remember that some resistance training is still important. Get yourself some light weights and do some light resistance training. That'll protect your joints. So to answer your question, absolutely, you have to adapt your exercise program to a program that suits you at your age. But you want to push yourself still a little bit just to keep the body raising its bar for as long as possible. But you mustn't do something that's going to put you at risk. Absolutely. So in further answer to that question, it's nice to know what your cardiovascular status is before you go exercising. You need to know what ideally, it would be nice to know what the status of your coronary arteries are like, and there are ways of finding that out. But you need to see your doctor and say, listen, I want to get involved in a decent exercise program. Can you assess my cardiovascular system and see that everything's healthy for me to do so? Do I have any concerns? But yeah, tailor it for your age. Yeah. Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's possible to overdo hydration when it comes to exercise. If you're focusing on your 6 to 8 glasses, whatever you're used to drinking between meals in the day, and if you go drink 2 liters of water and go run now, you're going to feel pretty poorly. So it's nice to drink about half an hour to an hour before you go exercise. You've got water on board. Your body's got an exquisite mechanism to maintain your water balance, and you can drink when you come back. If you're going to run the Washi 100, have you heard of the Washi 100? Yes. It's a 100-mile race in Port Alfred. 160 Ks. The guys run through the night. Absolutely insane. If you're going to run the Washi 100, then you might need to take some extra water with you. But the point is, most of us are not. So, yeah, if you hydrate properly before, you don't need to run with your bottle for an hour. You'll be all right for an hour. And drink when you get back.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your inspiring talk. And I can share a lot of things with you as well. I think the important one thing I have is with regards to lactic acid.
Yes.
I think what I need clarity on is that the cause and effects of it and how you can get rid of it.
Sure. So normally, the fuel source that you're burning in your glycolytic and Krebs cycle and oxidative phosphorylation to produce ATP, your body takes the glucose, runs it through those cycles, and produces ATP. When you have enough oxygen around, if you've got enough oxygen for that process, your body takes one glucose molecule and converts it into 38 ATP molecules. And that's an energy-efficient process. The more rapid sort of burst-type exercise you do, the more strenuous your exercise and the less aerobic exercise you can maintain. In other words, the more you start to get a mismatch between how you can process the oxygen and the exercise demand, the greater your body will shift to doing an anaerobic respiration. In other words, it has the capacity to take that same glucose molecule and shunt it into a lactic acid pathway. So for each glucose molecule, you're only going to get 2 ATPs produced. So it's an energy wastage it's an energy wasteful way of processing that glucose, but it's still one way the body can maintain activity under less than ideal oxygen activity. So, but the point is, the more you exercise, the more efficient your enzymes of respiration are. So they will process things a lot more efficiently than those of us that are unfit. So you will maintain aerobic respiration potentially longer than somebody that's not fit. But the greater the amount of disparity between what exercise demand you're placing and your ability to meet that with oxygen and process within a given time, the more you're going to tend towards anaerobic respiration. And then, but even then, your body can get more efficient at processing lactic acid because 80% of it's metabolized in the liver back to compounds you can use as part of energy production. So exercise is going to win-win all around, but if you're doing things excessively and not keeping up with the pace, you're going to build up more lactic acid. So the point is to breathe properly, to control your breathing very well, to try and keep it at a pace where you're not forcing yourself into an anaerobic state. So keep things matched, and then you'll generate less lactic acid.
Thank you. Any other questions?
You said that you should do 30 minutes cardio.
At least.
That's steady state cardio. If I do interval training, so I do 10 minutes of sprinting and then stopping, sprinting for 20 seconds, stopping for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Is that the equivalent of doing?
Yeah, look, I don't know if exactly it equates, but they say if you're going to do interval training, you should try and do at least 5 cycles of that. So I'd say take 2 minutes to build up a warm-up, to do a warm-up, and focus during that 2 minutes. If you're going to be jogging, jog slowly. Focus on getting your breathing right, making sure you're breathing in and out through your nose. You're warm, things are going well, then you sprint. You push yourself for 60 seconds. Come back to your jogging pace, another 30 seconds. Try and then push yourself again for another 60 seconds if you're doing interval training. And do that 5 or so times. Yeah. Now, look, you can start on 20 seconds, but try and work up to... Look, 60 seconds is quite a long time to push yourself. I'm not saying you must do it straight away, but try and push yourself for 30 to 60 seconds. It depends on your pace. If you're really like sprinting like a 100-meter sprint, then 60 seconds is going to seem like an eternity. But if you started at, 1K an hour, and your high intensity now is 3Ks an hour, you can do that. So it depends on what your baseline is as to how hard it's going to be. But the point is you'll find out where you're at, and then just do about 5 cycles of that. If that exactly equates to 30 minutes of normal cardio, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it correlates. But normal cardio, you want to be aiming at actually 45 minutes to an hour now. So, but you'll feel as you get more fit, it'll get easier, and you can know where your body's at. And sure. Well, the point is then it will take less to get a good result, because you'll be up and things are getting more efficient. Then you can push yourself more, because now you're not getting tired so easily. And it's exciting if you start thinking about what you're doing. You think, hey, now I'm pushing my mitochondria, I'm building them up, making them more efficient. I'm breathing properly, I'm getting stronger, I'm building my metabolism. It's exciting stuff. Anyway, for me, I think it's enjoyable.
All right, thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
If you've got any other questions, then you can jot it down somewhere, and there's a question box on the registration table there as well. And then also there's a prayer request box as well on the table if you want us to pray. I know it's difficult sometimes to make some of these changes, and sometimes prayer can help us with making the changes we intend.
Thank you, Chris. I'd like to remind you there is a donation box. We haven't charged an entrance fee, but there's a lot of expenses, as you can imagine, to run something like this. And if you feel, impressed to contribute, it will really make a difference to be able to continue with this type of work. And on that point, I want to do a straw vote. Okay, you know what a straw vote is? It's not a real vote. Okay, it's a straw vote, just to see, where we're at. I was thinking, Dr. Bruce has still got more things to share. He hasn't covered everything. Who would be interested to possibly come back once a week for something like this? If we say, well, we're going to meet on a Wednesday and Dr. Bruce is going to do another lecture. Who's just thinking? We're not going to hold you to it. If you say, well, Once a week. Well, there's quite a few hands. Dr. Bruce? I haven't even spoken to him about it.
I didn't know I was coming back.
I had to get the straw vote first. Okay, so we'll think about it. I'll talk to Dr. Bruce about it and the team, and we'll see what we can do to continue. It'll probably not be in this venue. It's quite expensive to hire this room, but maybe one of the other rooms that are quite nice, classroom setting. You can come in maybe once a week, and Dr. Bruce can give us a lecture, and we can, learn more. And Dr. Bruce can maybe put on those other exercise pants that he was talking about, and he can start demonstrating. Okay, so
I'm not saying this is one who's arrived. I'm saying it is one who's trying to get there.
okay, so we can make jokes like this. We've known each other for a long time, for like 20 years or something.
Absolutely.
So tomorrow night, what's important? 5:30, cooking demonstration. So come for the cooking demonstration at 5:30, and then 6:30, we are going to have the last lecture of this round, okay? And what we're speaking on tomorrow?
Sleep.
Sleep.
So come
So
away.
don't sleep in tomorrow night's
Come away.
lecture, okay?
This is that cycle, just before you go, that I want you to remember when it comes to your methylation. If you want to Google this, it looks very busy, but the point is that homocysteine I was talking about is sitting there. And that compound damages your vessels, that increases your dementia risk. And there's simple nutrients that control how well you're methylating. So if you have a mental illness, if you have anxiety and depression, a good thing to look at is how you're methylating. Because methylation affects how you build neurotransmitters. And that's a simple thing. If you look at your homocysteine and it's sitting at 15, it should be less than ideally 6.1. You could have something simple like a B12 deficiency can cause depression. Something simple like a folate deficiency can cause depression. So your SNPs, your genetic deletions, are affecting how well your cycles are turning because this enzyme here is coded by your genes. So these are simple things. It's useful things to know. It's not about living out of a bottle. It's about using chemistry to your advantage. So I want you to know that that's useful information. Thanks very much.
So before we close, there's something that I want to share with you. I believe we have become friends. And, they say happiness shared is happiness doubled, and sadness shared is sadness halved. You've heard that? Okay, so on Sunday night, there was a lady sitting over there, and she came to talk to Dr. Bruce about her fiance, he got a virus. I think it was the end of June somewhere, and he was admitted to hospital, 49 years old, and he went into this coma, and Brian and myself went to visit him at one point, and she was sitting here coming to ask advice from Dr. Bruce, not knowing that he actually passed away while she was here. So you can just imagine the trauma that this poor lady is going through. She was one of us here, and her whole life has now changed. Her name is Ronelle. I would like us to have a prayer tonight for Ronelle and the whole family. And then we also had another loss. There was man, Peter, and Judith. They would have loved to have come, but due to Peter's health, he couldn't come. We went one evening to go and visit him, and he passed away last night. So we just want to, he had colon cancer, so I want us to have a special prayer for Judith and that family as well. Is that all right with you? Shall we do that? So let's have a prayer. Dear God, we want to thank you for this privilege we have to speak to our Creator. We want to thank you for the way that you've helped us in these meetings. Thank you for giving Dr. Bruce strength and wisdom, and thank you for those who have been coming and learning. We pray that we'll have the strength to make the changes, and we know that this is only possible through your grace. And Dear Lord, we want to pray especially for Renelle and the family. Lord, please give them strength. And we think of Judith and her family too. It's been such a shock also to lose Peter. And dear God, we pray that your strength will also uphold them. We pray for each one of us here. We know that our lives are just a breath. And help us to do the best we can. And we know with your blessing, we can expect good results. We pray that you'll also guide us in the future. We would like to be a blessing to this area, this community. Thank you for Dr. Bruce's willingness to do this free of charge. And we want to thank you for his love and his kindness. And please bless him too and be with each one. We ask in your holy name. Amen.